Your life as a master manipulator. Level 1. The first realization. You don't start out trying to control people. You're not sitting there planning schemes or thinking about power. At first, you're just observant. You notice something small, something most people ignore. You notice that people don't always react to the truth. They react to how the truth is presented. One day, you say something completely honest, and it causes problems. Another day, you change a few words, soften the edges, and suddenly everyone agrees with you. The result is different, even though the truth is almost the same. That's the first moment something clicks in your mind. People aren't responding to reality. They're responding to perception, and perception is flexible. You don't do anything with this knowledge yet. You just store it somewhere in the back of your mind. But from that day on, you start paying attention. Level 2. The small lie. Soon you learn something even more interesting. A small lie can solve a big problem. You're late for something. You say the traffic was bad. Nobody questions it. You forget to do something important. You say you misunderstood the instructions. People accept it. You start to realize that most people don't investigate. They don't analyze every word. They just accept explanations that sound reasonable. And the better the explanation sounds, the less anyone questions it. At first, you feel a little uncomfortable doing it. You hesitate. But every time it works, that hesitation gets smaller. Eventually, you start thinking of them as lies. You start thinking of them as adjustments, minor edits to reality, tiny changes that make life easier. And slowly, you become very good at it. Level 3. Reading people. Now, something else begins to happen. You start noticing patterns in people. The way someone avoids eye contact when they're nervous. The way someone raises their voice when they're insecure. The way people pause for half a second when they're hiding something. You begin to realize something powerful. Most people are incredibly predictable. Not because they're stupid, but because they're emotional. Their decisions are guided by feelings more than logic. And feelings leave clues everywhere. You notice the quiet person in the room who just wants to be respected. The confident one who secretly needs approval. The angry one who's really just afraid. Once you see these patterns, it becomes impossible to ignore them. People are like open books. Most of them just don't realize it. And if you can read someone, you can influence them. Level 4. The first test. Eventually, curiosity gets the better of you. You decide to test what you've learned. Nothing big, just something small. You tell two people the same story, but you tell it slightly differently. To one person, you emphasize the positive parts. To the other, you emphasize the negative. The reaction is immediate. The first person agrees with you completely. The second person becomes skeptical. Same facts, different framing, different outcome. That's the moment you understand something important. People rarely form opinions on their own. They build their opinions using the information they're given. And whoever controls that information controls the outcome. You don't say this out loud, but in your mind, the realization is crystal clear. Influence is real, and most people don't even notice it happening. Level 5. Emotional leverage. By now, you've learned that logic alone doesn't move people. Emotion does. People like to believe they're rational, but when decisions are made, emotion is almost always involved. Respect, fear, sympathy, pride, guilt. These emotions are like levers. Push the right one, and people move exactly the way you expect them to. You learn when to praise someone so they trust you, when to sympathize so they open up, when to stay silent so they reveal more than they intended. Sometimes you barely have to say anything at all. A well-timed pause can make someone keep talking. A small compliment can make someone feel loyal. You begin to realize something strange. Influence doesn't require force. It just requires understanding. Level 6, the mirror. Now you discover another powerful tool. People trust those who are like them, not necessarily in appearance, but in behavior. So you begin to mirror people. If someone speaks calmly, you speak calmly. If someone laughs often, you laugh often. If someone speaks slowly, you slow down too. At first, it feels unnatural, but the results are undeniable. People begin to feel comfortable around you. They say things like, "I feel like I've known you for years," or "You're easy to talk to." In reality, you're just reflecting them back at themselves. And people love seeing themselves in others. Without realizing it, they start trusting you more. Level 7, controlling the narrative. At this point, manipulation becomes less about lies and more about storytelling. You realize something powerful. Facts alone don't convince people. Stories do. If you present information inside a narrative, people remember it, they feel it, they believe it. So, instead of arguing facts, you shape stories. You choose which details to highlight, which ones to ignore, which ones to present first. The order of information alone can change everything. If someone hears the positive parts first, they see the situation differently. If they hear the negative parts first, their entire perspective shifts. You're not changing reality, you're arranging it, like pieces on a board. Level 8, planting ideas. Now your methods become even more subtle. You stop telling people what to do directly. Instead, you plant ideas. A suggestion here, a question there, a small comment that lingers in someone's mind. Instead of saying, "You should do this," you say, "Have you ever thought about doing this?" Or, "Some people say this approach works better." The idea enters their mind, and once it's there, it begins to grow. Eventually, they come back to you and say, "You know what? I think I should try that." You nod, as if the idea was entirely theirs. And that's the beauty of it. People trust their own ideas more than anyone else's. So the best manipulation is making people believe the thought came from them. Level 9, the invisible influence. By now, you barely need to manipulate actively. Your understanding of people does most of the work for you. You know who responds to praise, who responds to pressure, who responds to logic, and who responds to emotion. You adjust automatically. Your tone changes depending on the person. Your words shift depending on the situation. To some people, you appear confident. To others, empathetic. To others, analytical. Everyone sees a slightly different version of you, and they all believe it's the real one. The strange thing is, none of them realize they're being influenced. Because good manipulation doesn't feel like manipulation. It feels like normal conversation. Level 10, the quiet truth. At the highest level, you understand something that most people never realize. People don't want the objective truth. They want a version of reality that feels comfortable. They want to believe they're making their own choices. They want to believe their opinions are entirely their own. And as long as you give them that feeling, they will follow the path you guide them toward. You don't force people. You guide them. You don't argue. You frame. You don't command. You suggest. And because of that, no one ever points at you and says, "You manipulated me." Instead, they walk away believing the decisions were always theirs. But deep down, you know something they don't. Influence isn't about control. It's about understanding people better than they understand themselves. And once you reach that point, you rarely need to manipulate anyone at all, because the world itself begins to move exactly the way you expect it to.